6:59 somewhere.
Okay. All right, I'll call the EDA meeting to order. First item is to adopt the agenda.
I'll move to adopt the agenda as submitted.
Thank you, Brian. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes. Next, we need to approve the October 16th, 2023 EDA minutes.
I do have one change.
Okay.
On page 4 of the packet, or page 3 of the minutes, line 14. It states Mundell volunteered the council members to be on the team. It should actually read Mundell volunteered to be on the team as a member of council.
Ah.
Even the council members are certainly welcome, but I won't speak for them.
All right. That correction noted. Any other comments or corrections? If not, would you like to make a motion with that?
We'll make a motion to approve the October 16th, 2023 EDA meeting minutes with the change I explained.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. Item 4, AC Red update and fixed wireless broadband report.
Thank you, Julie. Our special guest tonight is Gregory from Gillis. He's the AC Red director. And he's going to give us an overview of AC Red's activities to the authority, provide an update on the status of the county's fixed wireless program. And also, at the end of this, we have an MOU that we need to consider for adoption. Greg will answer any questions you have on the extension of the MOU amendment to recommend to City Council. This time I'll turn it over to Greg because he's the one that's going to do the show. Thank you, Greg, for coming.
Absolutely. No pressure with being a special guest. Jack, if you would be able to just fire up the PowerPoint, that would be greatly appreciated. If you want to go full screen.
It is
Down at the bottom,
Go.
yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for the opportunity. As introduced, my name is Greg. I'm the Director of Economic Development with Anoka County, and I am kind of the lead with the Anoka County Regional Economic Development, so AC Red as referenced. So I'm going to keep things pretty high level. I also like to keep things really conversational, so if you have any questions throughout, feel free to just throw those out there, and we'll keep things moving along. I'm also more than happy to dive into any specific point that we kind of bring up and talk about. But economic development, it's kind of a complicated thing. So Jack, I might need you to
Click or not.
help me out. All right. So a little bit about my background. I started my career in urban planning and municipal economic development, did 5 years commercial real estate and development in the Madison, Wisconsin area. Started my own business in 2017 with my husband. We own a veterinary urgent care center in the metro. And then in summer of 22, I jumped back into economic development to be able to work with the county. So with economic development, if I asked each one of you in order to give me what your definition is, I would very well get a lot of variety in the responses. So I always like to kind of frame things, and these are two particular quotes that I feel represent it well. There's actually two aspects that I want to point out, and Jack, if you could click. Both of these definitions focus on quality of life. And that formatting was a little bit different on my computer than on the screen, but really it's kind of, what are we trying to do here? And it's creating that economic vitality, the resiliency, so that we are able to create, increase the quality of life of the residents and constituents, and support the businesses within our community. And then if you click again, one more time. The other part is, and we'll just pretend it's actually intended to be down on the work communities down there. Economic development, if you think about where you live, where you go to work, where you recreate, where you worship, where you go out to eat, all of those things, they don't always fit within jurisdictional boundaries of a municipality. And so really it's about that feeling of what is a sense of community, and that transcends those jurisdictional boundaries. And so from an economic development standpoint, we also need to be looking at it from that same perspective, because the people that live in one community might work in another and go and shop in a third, and again, worship, recreate, all of those things, it's all intermixed. And so it's important that, you know, from a regional perspective, that we're able to have that same format. One more time. So AC Red, 3 main objectives that we dial all of our work into. One is regionalism. So AC Red is a partnership of all 21 municipalities within Anoka County. I am technically a county employee, but the operating budget for our effort is a cost share of all 21 municipalities, all chipping in on a per capita basis. And so we really focus on that regionalism of getting all of the municipalities together, sharing ideas. We had a AC Red partner meeting last week where we had most of the county that was in attendance of that, community development, economic development, urban planners, that kind of thing, that we all got together along with a lot of the regional partners, so Greater MSP, Minnesota DEED, some of the big chambers of commerce in the area, so that we're all able to just connect on what's going on within our community, share ideas, do programs, and make sure that we're getting, you know, information out to businesses, resources out to businesses. So it's really kind of, again, looking at it from that regional perspective and that sense of community. Perception kind of plays also into marketing, and so making sure that the North Metro, that we are getting the investment that we have earned and deserve, and so making presentations to business groups. We had a booth at the Mincar Expo where we were talking with a number of real estate brokers, developers. We are hosting the Anoka County Real Estate Summit in a couple weeks on December 5th. And so again, just really getting the promotion out there and ensuring that the perception of Anoka County is that we are a place that is ripe for investment and a place that businesses thrive. That third aspect, readiness, so that's more dealing with, it's the timelines associated with businesses that are in growth mode or making decisions on expansions, relocations. That timeline is getting shorter and shorter and shorter. And so we want to make sure that we are putting our best foot forward. And so it's identifying those key development sites within communities, ensuring that that information is out there as best as it can be through listings on Catalyst, the kind of the commercial brokers, MLS, Zillow for industry. And really, we have a pre-development grant program where Anoka County, we provided grants to help with some of those pre-development activities. So wetland delineation, soil borings, ALTA surveys, all of that kind of thing, to ensure that we were in a prime position, so that when a business was saying, hey, we need to move right now, we need to make a decision, that we're in the best spot in order to do so. So really focusing again on that development readiness. Some main industries, manufacturing is as a long, wonderful storied history in Anoka County, and for good reason. If you look at any metric, workforce participation rates, workforce productivity rates, Anoka County, we are higher than state averages and national averages when it comes to manufacturing. So we're really good at it, and so that's something that we want to continue to put focus on and make sure that we get more manufacturing here. Distribution trucking, Highway 65, Highway 10, the interstate corridor, 35W and 35E, prime locations for a lot of the distribution, and you've seen a lot of industrial development occurring on those major transportation corridors over the last couple of years. Data centers on the east side of the county, there's a fiber trunk that runs from Duluth down to Texas, and so trying to utilize that key asset and seeing are there opportunities to attract technology companies that are really looking for that level of bandwidth. And the back office support staff, anytime you have, central business districts, downtown Minneapolis, St. Paul, you have these major companies located there. From a real estate perspective, it just doesn't make sense to locate a lot of your back office and support staff in those same locations, and so those are often in the outlying counties, and so making sure that we're in a good position for that as well. So a few things that I just want to throw out for conversation's sake to kind of, let us know where are we at. We see all this development going on. What's happening? Industrial has certainly been hot for most of the year. You'll see 6.8 million square feet currently under construction. There's a 4.5% vacancy rate, which is getting pretty close to kind of what we'd say is a balanced market. The thing is that there was a massive influx of spec industrial that hit the market in Q3. And so that number you're going to see go down. So you'll see the two other parts that are really important is the 13 million square feet of tenant demand. So that's where that vacancy rate is going to drop once when those buildings come online and users move into that. The 2023, the Q3 starts 90,000 square feet. So in terms of the magnitude, the difference of what happened in the first 2 quarters compared to quarter 3 is just, night and day. It was within a matter of weeks. Interest rates, construction costs, anything that was not in the ground at that moment just came to a complete halt, and you could just see it in the project starts within a couple-week period. So we're definitely keeping a close eye on what that means. The 13 million square feet of tenant demand, there are businesses that are actively trying to grow and expand, and they're not able to, one, because of the lack of available space within the county. And this is metro-wide as well, but certainly the story is true in Anoka County. But the space that's coming online is all being put up by these, national firms, capital partners, Opidin, Artis Real Estate, that are doing these huge, 200, 300,000 square foot spec buildings. And so manufacturers that are looking to go from 10,000 square feet to 15 or 20,000 square feet, there's not that opportunity. And so those larger buildings, construction costs are really high, rental rates are really high. It's creating a lot of upward movement in rental rates. And so small businesses that are maybe breaking even or kind of doing okay, they're seeing rental increase proposals of 30 to 40%, which is just a huge hit. Secondarily, buildings are assessed on typically like a lease revenue model in terms of the valuation of the structure. And so then within a year or two, those valuations are now going to go up. Property taxes are going to go up. That's going to get disseminated to the businesses through their CAM charges as well. And so in another couple of years, there's going to be another increased expense on the property tax side of things. And so that's definitely something that we're keeping an eye on and seeing how we can be able to stay ahead of it and educate and support the businesses within Anoka County. Office space, over 20% vacancy rate, work from home, all kind of the post-COVID new work style impacts. You'll see negative 2.6 million square feet of space, so there is vacancy everywhere. The interesting thing is that the Class A space, so the best of the best, is still highly competitive. There are not any lease rate reductions, concessions, anything like that for that Class A space. So where we're seeing all that vacancy is in that older, 1960s, 1970s office space, the more tired that just doesn't quite work the same. So that's where we're seeing a lot of that flight to quality, where you're having businesses that maybe they had 50,000 square feet of office space, and now they're going to downsize to 20 because a lot of their employees are working from home, but they're going to make it really nice as a way to be able to try and draw their employees in and kind of have a new collaborative work structure that way. And so we're seeing a lot of that redevelopment happen. Medtronic in Columbia Heights, they're consolidating to their Fridley location, so now Columbia Heights is going through a redevelopment process with their that 12-acre site that's in a prime location. And so we'll see that vacancy rate start to drop as some of those conversions, and in some limited cases conversions to residential, but often kind of getting more to that demolition and redevelopment of those sites. You will see the 3 million square feet of tenant demand. Again, it's kind of driven a lot by that, that Class A space that a lot of those companies are really looking for. So when we talk about economic development, we frame it as either a little E or a big E. So the little E is, you know, our direct work, technical assistance, one-on-one with a business to be able to help them with a workforce issue, see if there's available programs through Minnesota DEED or some of those. So you see, you know, strictly within my office, 36 support projects with businesses. When I talk about the code name projects with Minnesota DEED or Greater MSP, oftentimes there'll be big RFPs for businesses that are looking in the area, and they don't give us a lot of information. But we did have 2 project wins where there was some pretty significant capital expenditure investment within the county on those. The Metro County FTZ, that's a foreign trade zone, and so that's a federal kind of a tax program. All 7 counties, we collaboratively work together in order to be able to provide an education on that. There's over 120 business leaders that were in attendance on that webinar, so it was very, very widely utilized and benefited from. Again, kind of talking about some of the events, hosting, we have the Real Estate Summit coming up in May or June. We host the Business Summit. We have the 3M Open, where we use that as an economic development tool in order to be able to help recruit investment to the area. And then the Minnesota Real Estate Journal, there's 4 events that we participate in, either as a sponsor and or as a panelist, in order, again, to be able to promote the county and the area. For businesses, we also work with the Open to Business program. So that provides free business technical support. So budding entrepreneurs that have, you know, an idea they want to figure out how to commercialize. Maybe it's an existing business that's looking to grow or expand or downsize. Maybe it's somebody who's, you know, running a business, getting a little bit older, and wants to work on a succession plan. So we have that tool available, and there are businesses in East Bethel that have utilized that service in 2023. Both residents with ideas that they're looking to be able to start a business in addition to existing businesses. The county, we have a revolving loan fund to be able to help provide some financial assistance. MinCar, that's kind of that site and building listing that I mentioned before. And then helping folks navigate the state programs through Minnesota DEED, whether Launch Minnesota or their small business development. Big projects, go ahead.
Can you tell me what Minnesota DEED is? Because
Yeah.
I know, I'm sure everybody here knows because they've been on this board for a
Absolutely.
while, but I'm sure there are people out there who don't know.
Yeah, that is the Department of Employment and Economic Development. And so
Okay.
that is the statewide economic development business support organization that, you know, really works on growing the industry within the area and attracting.
And they have a whole committee like a EDA, regular EDA type
Uh,
thing, or?
They are, it's managed by the commissioner, DEED commissioner, and the, you know, dozens and dozens of employees.
Okay.
Working either in workforce or business development, business growth.
Got it.
That kind of thing. So
Thank you.
They're a really robust organization that we get to work with in a lot of different facets. So in terms of Big E is kind of your conceptual, you know, 30,000 foot view. What's impacting the local economy and things that we can try and influence. That's a little bit more conceptual. So certainly the speed to market that we talked about, the readiness, the shovel ready. Again, in the county we have 2 pre-development grant programs. One I referenced, the other one is for trying to help, you know, larger sites get certified by the state of Minnesota as a shovel-ready site. Those are generally 40 acres and up, and so there's not a ton of those. Workforce, it's a big issue. It is a really, really big issue that we've been hearing a lot. We've been, you know, looking into a lot of the data. You'll see. I'll have a couple of additional slides on this, but the United States, we're getting older, and so that's having huge implications in terms of workforce availability and how do businesses pivot from that. Housing is directly tied to workforce, and so that is very much an economic development issue. the Itasca project with Greater MSP. It was a study done earlier this year that said that the metro area underproduced housing for a significant period of time from 2010 to 2020. So all the multifamily construction, everything that you're seeing right now, it's all catch up. This isn't future production for future people. This is all stuff that we had not been producing over the last 10 years. And so the big question is, knowing that we're in that deficit, now what? So it comes down to municipalities, individual land use decisions, where, what's the needs of the businesses and the employment within this area. So kind of talking about, workforce a little bit again, we're not in, this isn't a COVID, workforce thing. This isn't something that we're gonna just be able to wait out. If businesses are having trouble finding people now, it's only going to get worse in the future. And so, we know with, fertility rates, we know what the workforce is gonna be in 10 years, because they were already born. So we look at the third graders, fourth graders, fifth graders. We know what that number is. And so, the big thing is, how do we work with our industry? How do we support automation? How do we work on training programs within the K-12 system and post-secondary in order to be able to figure out the workforce for today and tomorrow? And so there's a lot of active conversations and a lot of good dialogue within the community and the educational institutions on that we're participating in. Go ahead, Jack. So this is just an interesting metric. So in the 22 years, Anoka County, we increased our population by just shy of 71,000. If you would break up that population, that increase, into birth to age 45 and 45 and up, Jack, if you can click a little bit, the birth to 45 was 2,600 people. And so aged 45 and up, that increment, that population increase was about 68,000. So Anoka County is getting significantly older. And so if you start thinking through, okay, from all the industry in the area, the machinists, just across the board from a workforce perspective, it's a big consideration of how do we keep those positions filled as we get an increase in retirements on a percentage basis. So next slide, Jack. Nationally, about 1.5 job openings per person that is looking for work. So there are significantly more job opportunities that are out there. So that number was closer to 2, and so we're now down to about 1.5, but it's still demonstrating that there are just not enough workers, and again, we're in that demographic shift. And so what do we got to do from an Anoka County standpoint to be able to support the businesses to keep them operating? This is the Itasca project that I mentioned. I'll have you click through that. One more. And so this was from Greater MSP, the 15-county regional economic development organization, that we're running into a big housing affordability issue. Not running into, we're in the midst of it. And so it's, we think about, new industry that comes into town, especially in the industrial and distribution side of things, and the wages that those positions pay, and then you think about the housing stock that's available. And so a big concern is, can we attract the workers needed for the businesses that are in Anoka County, or are we creating a situation where we're kind of cannibalizing from each other on the business side of it, where you're having somebody jump across the street for an extra $1 more, and it's just going to be good for increasing wages, but then there's going to be a lot of businesses that are going to get hurt and not able to survive as a result. So this is kind of talking about the housing is economic development, and it's tied to workforce. So this is on a national basis, but kind of talking about the median household or median home price as in relation to the income required to be able to afford that home. And so pre-COVID, $47,000, post-COVID, $104,000. So in order to be able to get a mortgage with 20% down for the median house today, it is more, you need more than double the amount of household income to be able to qualify. So those that are just graduating and have been maybe living in their parents' basement trying to save up some money for a down payment, they're not catching up, they're losing ground. And so thinking about, housing stock, price points, wages, all of that kind of stuff, the cost of housing is significantly outpacing the increase in wages over the last couple of years. And so that's, again, kind of going back to that workforce, back to businesses being able to find the people that they need to be able to grow and expand. It's definitely a big challenge that we're trying to think our way through. When you think about job creation, there's a big focus on trying to attract new business into the area. But if you actually look at the job creation metrics associated with that, the job creation actually comes from entrepreneurship. And so businesses that are within their first year, just kind of averaged out over time, are always a net job gain. Businesses as a business ages, gets into year 5 of operation, year 10 of operation, you'll deal with businesses that close, consolidations, that kind of thing. So those more mature sectors end up being a net job loss overall when you kind of average everything out. And so really the idea is that municipalities will often talk about economic development, a big focus on job creation and capital expenditures associated with those projects. If the thought process is to prioritize job creation, then really entrepreneurship is the ticket in order to do so. And so that's kind of something that we're keeping in mind as well as what, the revolving loan fund and some of those programs that we have in place. Absolutely, business attraction, if there's an opportunity to be able to bring a new industry in, fantastic. We are all for it, and that's not the total picture. So being able to make sure that we're supporting those budding entrepreneurs, because that's where that job creation comes from. That's kind of what I got from, again, a very high level. I am more than happy to be able to dive into questions, and if there's anything in particular that you want me to come back and present on with a little more narrow focus, I'm more than happy to. And I will touch on the broadband stuff.
Questions or comments?
Greg, you mentioned earlier about spec buildings.
Yeah.
I know 30 or 40 years ago, that was kind of a big thing to do, building smaller spec buildings. Do you see that as a trend that's coming back in order to attract industry, especially in places like Anoka County where we don't have a lot of available buildings to begin with?
Yeah, the challenge at the moment with interest rates and construction costs and the lead time for some of those things like electrical switchgear and that kind of thing is that it's atrociously expensive in order to put up anything on a per square foot basis. And so it just does not pencil out financially in order to put up small buildings. And so that's why you're seeing the investment by these major national companies that have access to that, to the equity investment right out of the gate, that they're, kind of 100,000 square foot at a minimum, and usually it's 3 or 4 of those buildings put together. So Bunker Lake Business Park in Ramsey is 3 buildings for a total of 405,000 square feet. Ryan Companies was talking about doing Clearwater Creek and Lino Lakes, 450,000 square feet between 3 buildings. Capital Partners in Blaine with their 35W, or Blaine 35 was 3 separate buildings. And then the 35W Logistics Center is something that they're pushing right now at 300,000 square feet under one roof. So in terms of the smaller buildings, it doesn't make sense from an investment standpoint. And so it really needs to be having a business that is properly capitalized to be able to do a build to suit that they are investing in themselves, so they don't need to make money on the real estate, but trying to help a smaller business, again, with some of the economic challenges that we're seeing. There's not a lot of businesses that are in a really robust spot that are feeling like, going from 10,000 square feet, I'm going to build myself a 40,000 square foot with the interest rates, with the construction costs. it's a lot of businesses are sitting on the sidelines at the moment.
Greg, I have a couple questions,
Yeah.
just kind of related to overall the perception that you spoke to. First question is, we talked about the cost sharing per capita with municipalities. How do you divide your time among those municipalities? Does it follow that same percentage? And then secondly, with perception, I brought this along tonight because I got this in the mail a few months ago, and I thought it was a great publication, kind of highlighting AC Red, and there's even a couple good pictures of East Bethel in that, so it's wonderfully highlighted. What things is Anoka County doing to highlight and promote individual municipalities? You know, kind of bringing out their uniqueness and those differentiating factors that businesses would find attractive.
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So for your first question, the short answer is no, not specifically on, my time split does not specifically match that of what that cost share is. And there's a few reasons why. One, a number of municipalities have their own community development, economic development staff. And so my relationship with those municipalities is very different than those that don't. And so some of it is, obviously on a per capita basis, we're talking Blaine, Coon Rapids. One, they have a absolutely dynamic staff that are there. And two, I don't feel that it's necessarily appropriate for the benefit of the region that we put the most resources in the place that has the most resources. And so really trying to look at it from that regional perspective and ensuring that we're, again, focusing on the aspect of community. And so how do we work with communities like East Bethel, but then also the surrounding, communities as well, so that any ancillary development, whether residential, retail, any of that kind of stuff, can benefit from some of those big projects. Communities also have natural, amenities and frankly, economic detriments as well. That whether Columbus is 70% wetland by land area, and so being able to get a lot of synergy between parcels that are located next to each other is really challenging. Unlike running up Highway 65, that you're able to get a lot of that retail and service and that kind of stuff that's able to kind of follow that flow. Columbus runs into the issue where because of a lot of the wetlands, it breaks things up quite a bit, and so that's why you have Lake Drive that is more focused on like construction, that kind of thing, contractors, because some of those retail opportunities and the housing that would have to be around that to support that office and retail just can't be there. And so it's with that, then you get the trends in the economy. So communities that are really focused on suburban office are not seeing as much going on at the moment for those development areas, that they're really dialed in on suburban office. And so some of it comes back to the individual autonomy of municipalities and dictating your own future, and how that matches up with economic opportunity that's out there. So it's me trying to be in the best position to support the municipalities for where they're at and what they need. And some municipalities are really active in the economic development kind of sphere, and some municipalities are more we're happy to take advantage of opportunities that come to us, but we're not going to necessarily pursue things aggressively. And so some of it is just being kind of an affordable consultant on retainer. When the question arises, then they know that they can give me a call, and I'm in a position to be able to help them in very short order, and it doesn't cost them anything more. The second question, there's a few things. One, again, it's not what I feel are the strongest economic attributes. It's what do you feel are your strongest attributes. And so, for example, with the 3M Open, we had, we had a template put together, but we leaned on the local staff of every municipality in order to create an economic development profile that talked about the projects that they were really proud of, that were recently completed, and those opportunities for future investment that they're looking to be able to attract. And so we created that framework, but they were, the municipalities dictated what was important to them to be able to promote and highlight. And so we gathered, 150 key business leaders and real estate investors and brokers and all of that to come into the room to be able to be exposed to what the municipality felt was the most important to them. When we do the business summit, the Anoka County Real Estate Summit that's coming up, again, we're bringing all the people into the room, and then we give the municipalities the opportunity to be able to have a table and be able to showcase the opportunities that they want to promote. The MinCar Expo sent out a note to the municipalities to say, hey, we're going to be at this expo in downtown Minneapolis. If you have key sites that you want to be able to help promote, let me know, send those over. We had an extra ticket as well, and so this year City of St. Francis joined and participated in that. And so there's a lot of those opportunities where it's not me dictating what's important to your community, it's creating facilitating the opportunity for you to be able to amplify your voice on a regional stage that we have kind of created and facilitated. So did that answer your question?
Thank you.
I kind of have a question. That's something that didn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
And that is the population and the housing thing. Because you said the fertility rate is down and essentially people aren't having children anymore, and but there's not enough housing. There's not enough people for jobs, but there's still not enough housing. So that's not making sense. Those numbers aren't making sense to me. Am I making sense to you?
Yeah, there's a few things that come into play. One, you'll see that, Anoka County did have an increase in population. Some of that is due to attraction to the area. The other part is that people are living longer, and so people are staying in their homes longer. And so what historically, if you think 20, 30, 40 years ago, what would be a natural churn of the housing stock, that churn is not happening at that same rate. My parents, my father just turned 80, and with folks that are getting older, they still live in my childhood home. So this isn't, they haven't moved on to an assisted living or something like that. They are holding on to a home that would, they bought it before I was born, and so it's kind of that the starter home kind of a thing is that churn is not happening in that same rate, and so there's not another wave of starter homes for the next generation to be able to move into for part of that reason, and then the other thing too is that the average household size over time, over the last I believe 40 years, the household size is getting smaller, and so you're getting more people that are either living by themselves or not having as many kids, that kind of thing. And so the number of housing units for the same population is increasing simply because more people are, they're spreading out a little bit more than they have historically. So you don't have as many multi-generational homes as you used to. Younger populations are looking to move out sooner than they used to, some of that kind of a thing.
Thank you.
I look at what we just had happen in East Bethel here, insofar as availability and small firms moving. And this is just an observation. We had one contractor decide they needed a bigger facility, built a very nice, or are building a very nice building, and then just the other day, another contractor came into town and had to get a CUP, and they're going right back in the same building. They're not in exactly the same industries. One's an excavator and the other one's a plumber.
Yeah.
But I think that's something that we're probably gonna see more of, as someone who built a number of commercial buildings and a lot of office warehouses. You really, I mean, if you're speccing an office warehouse, you better hope that you can find someone that likes that exact office warehouse or that configuration, that they don't need an overhead crane or they don't need ventilation. I mean,
Right.
built one building where we weren't even done with it and we had to start modifying it for air purity reasons.
Right.
The other thing is, we're in the midst of deciding, and I think we're probably leaning to do a business retention and expansion project, and I can see that we're gonna be working together, I think, on some of this stuff. This is pretty impressive graphics that you have.
Yeah, it's hard to get a better pulse of a community than talking to those that are in it. And the number of times where, you know, in the last year, working with communities in Anoka County where a business ends up closing and you know, moving somewhere else where the municipality didn't have any idea that that was the case. It happens a lot, more than it should. And it's unfortunate when, you know, a community hears about something from the newspaper. We're really, you know, we should be out there getting the pulse from the businesses, finding out what's going on. There's businesses that are going through major expansions, and we end up in a position where we need to fight to keep them here, because now they're looking for, you know, they're looking nationwide, major manufacturers in Anoka County. And so now rather than having a conversation and having a relationship and understanding what their needs are and being able to help them, now we get real estate brokers involved, site selectors. Now the state and communities need to come in and have discussions on incentives and all that kind of fun stuff in order to be able to just keep them here. Where if we would just have that relationship to begin with, then it would just be a quick phone call or running into them at the, you know, local chamber meeting or something like that. So business retention and expansion programs, in my opinion, are absolutely the best investment. They are very time intensive. It's a lot of work, and it's something you have to commit to for many, many years to be able to understand, you know, trends and progressions over time. But if you have a local business that's running into employment issues, it's best to know about that when you're in a position to help them before it's kind of that too late, or you have to, you know, kind of compete for it. So I'm a massive advocate for business retention programs, and I think it's one of the best ways to just be able to understand what's going on.
Do you interface a lot with Anoka County VOTEC or Anoka VOTEC?
Yeah, through I serve on the Workforce Development Board for Anoka County, and so definitely have, you know, some work there. There's the manufacturers cohort groups through the Anoka County Chamber and the Twin Cities North Chamber, and they're having a lot of conversations with both the high schools and the tech schools on being able to do job training. Anoka County Job Training Center, and we have our own Career Force Center. A lot of, you know, interactions with incumbent worker training programs where we can provide financial assistance to be able to help upskill your existing workforce. So if you're bringing in new machinery or just as a employee retention tool, being able to get financial help and being able to get the workers into the right spot that you need. So yes, short story is yes.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else?
All right, I can do
Good.
a real quick update on the fixed wireless. So Anoka County last year applied for a border-to-border grant through the state of Minnesota for a fixed wireless system. That grant was not approved. The county had some funds that were set aside in order to be able to allow for a capital investment on a broadband solution for some of those key underserved areas within the county. There's been, some municipalities that have been able to work with providers directly in order to be able to help serve some of those targeted areas. We had a untimely passing of our chief information officer at the county, who was kind of spearheading that effort. So things kind of understandably were put on hold for a little while as we were navigating that transition. Currently the provider that we were working on the fixed wireless solution with, that kind of effort has timed out, I guess, for lack of a better way to describe it. We also have a employment offer out for the next chief information officer that the county board will be taking under consideration December 1st at that upcoming meeting. And so the position of the county on that effort is that one will be leaning on the new, assuming this individual is affirmed in that position, will be leaning on their leadership in order to be able to help guide the direction that the county wants to go with that. We still have those funds that are segregated, but we want to be able to look at everything comprehensively. And so we are not locked in on the fixed wireless solution as the only option. Again, with that, the kind of work that we're with that particular provider, I'm kind of timing out. We'll be looking at everything with fresh eyes and making sure we're making the right decision for today, as compared to using, information and data from the past in order to make a current decision on. So definitely something that we are very interested in and see as kind of a public utility and economic development tool, and important for the entire community. And there's no active action steps, nothing that's in motion that will have a solution executed on by a certain date that we can commit to at this point.
So just to kind of sum it up, the grant was not approved, and there's money still set aside, but right now there's no plan put in place until a plan is made.
Yeah, that's a good summary.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have put ourselves in a position to execute on a strategy. We just want to give ourselves the opportunity to make sure that it's the right one for soon to be 2024, based on that situation and the need that exists, when we are looking to take action.
Okay.
Did they give a reason why the grant was disapproved?
They did not, no. There was a number of fixed wireless applications to the state during that round of broadband funding, and none of the fixed wireless were approved. Yeah. So it was specifically identified as an allowable solution, but it just didn't seem to pan out.
I think a part of this, though, is that landscape really changed pretty rapidly. Like, we had very poor service at one point and only had CenturyLink, and that was the only provider we were even offered, and we'd inquired at other places. They said, no, no, no. Well, then they called us up and said, we'll take you on now. We got a rate that was much better. We got a speed that was incredibly better. And then all of a sudden, this idea of having a Midco in-ground, we didn't care anymore because we had what we needed. And so I think this landscape is changing a lot.
Yeah.
So I think it makes sense that the county kind of isn't just moving to make changes right now, because honestly, the marketplace is changing so much that if they did, they'd probably put money where it didn't need to go.
Yeah.
That
So-
technology is evolving so fast.
Yeah, and
So-
there's a lot of funding from the federal government and certainly the state government, the waves of programs, broadband expansion programs that are coming out. And exactly to your point, the information when we were putting together the grant application was research that was in very early 2022, and now we're going into 2024, and so to execute on that same plan and strategy just
It
very
does
well
make sense.
probably wouldn't make a lot of sense, and so we just want to make sure that we're being responsible with the funds that have been set aside. So,
Are you anticipating another grant opportunity coming up, either state or federal?
Yes, I don't remember exactly the timeline, or if one was just recently released. But the one that we initially applied for, it was very much billed as this is the first of many. And so there are additional grants. I feel like it was on a 2-year cycle, which would kind of match with the state budget as well. And so I would expect that's probably a part of that strategy as well, is that if there's a state grant opportunity, let's utilize that money before we leverage county funds to a further extent. So.
All right.
Greg, could you speak briefly about the request to amend and renew the extension of the MOU for AC Red?
Thank you. AC Red, a little bit of super quick history, there's a 2017 economic development study that said, hey, the county, you really have a role to participate on a regional basis and help support the cities. The AC Red was more formalized in 2018. The first economic development director was hired in mid-2018. And then the memorandum of understanding, which formalized the partnership of all 21 municipalities, that was completed in January of 2019. Within that MOU, there was a automatic 5-year sunset where a new MOU was to be created. There's a couple big things that are planning documents, efforts that are going on with AC Red at the moment. One is a countywide housing study. And so every 10 years or so, the county does a full countywide assessment on the housing stock, the need, all of that. We'll be looking to be able to come back and make a presentation to the city on the results of that. We should get the final version within the next couple weeks. The other is that we are just kicking off a strategic planning effort for AC Red. And so we just got the funding finalized a few weeks ago. We are finalizing the contract with the consultant and really looking at, again, that 2017 study was before we even had an economic development department or person. And that had been the guiding document historically. And so we really just need to look at things fresh and what are the 2024 objectives and the best way for AC Red to be able to support the municipalities as compared to using the 2017 document, which used data back to 2012. And so with those big things that are in motion, it felt premature in order to have a more robust dialogue on the memorandum of understanding without really having those key guiding documents in place. And so the executive committee for AC Red authorized doing a 12-month extension on the existing document. So all terms, everything remains exactly the same cost share, just everything stays the same. We're just kicking out the expiration from January of 2024 to January of 2025 to allow for those big planning documents to get finalized and then allow us to have a more robust dialogue with all 21 municipalities at that point to say, hey, we have this new information. How can we, as AC Red, how can we best support all 21 municipalities within the county with an understanding of kind of the current situation? And so what is presented is just a amendment to the agreement to kick that out by 12 months. So that then we're able to, again, get the new information and have a more robust conversation next year to figure out what a longer term plan would look like.
So as Greg stated, what we have before us is EDA is requested to recommend consideration of an endorsement of the approval of the agreement extending and amending the MOU for Anoka County Regional Economic Development as exhibited in Attachment 1 to the City Council for their consideration and approval. As Greg said, the only change is it's extended for a year. Everything else remains the same within the MOU.
So is each city's participation based on number of residents? Okay.
Yep.
You might have touched on this, but in the MOU, it states a final action plan to develop and implement an economic action plan, the final action plan.
Yeah.
What
I-
is the final action plan?
That's a great question. I did not touch on that. So the MOU really, so it built in that 5-year sunset where one of two things was going to happen. Either a new MOU would be created and executed, or the executive committee would create the final action plan, and then we'd say, cool, we did good, we're done though. And kind of go back to the way things were and essentially dissolve AC Red. And so the executive committee, which is half of it is made up of city representatives from around the county, along with 2 county commissioners and 2 members of industry, felt confident in the work that we've been doing, and certainly all of our collaboration and interactions with city staff are strongly in support of continuing efforts. And so there is no final action plan because ideally we aren't final. We're going to continue moving on into the future.
Okay.
Is East Bethel currently represented on the executive committee?
It is.
By whom?
Aaron
Aaron?
Berg, yep.
I have a little problem with this because we didn't get a full copy of the MOU in our packet, and so I haven't been able to read it because, well, I didn't start reading this till Saturday, and there was nobody else to tell me how to get a copy of it. So I don't know what's in it. I don't know anything about it, other than what you just said, and some of it sounded like everything is outdated and we're going to just start everything all new. So my thinking is, let's just wait for the next MOU and do a whole new one, because it seems like this one is no longer effective. That's not the right word, but
Yeah, so the great question and sentiment, and I think one, it would be, at least from my standpoint, if there, needed to delay action to a future meeting, we have time to be able to do so, and so that could be, a consideration of this group. The memorandum of understanding was a short document that essentially just laid out the structure of the executive committee, 8 voting members, so 4 city representatives, 2 county commissioners, and 2 members of industry. And then the staff expenses were covered by the county, and operating budget is covered by, the cost share agreement of all 21 municipalities, and setting the rate of 5.7 cents per resident. And that's really about it. And so it, certainly outlined that the executive committee is in charge of, strategic planning, approving contracts with consultants, that kind of thing. Indicated that the county is responsible for, oversight of myself, of the position and performance, and that it's, held at the county. But in terms of those, big picture strategic initiatives and all that kind of stuff, that was not within the MOU. The MOU just created the structure for AC Red, and then in terms of those key strategic initiatives and getting things updated, all that kind of stuff is the work of the executive committee in collaboration with the partnership. And so there's certainly some correlation, and it's also completely separate of the updated strategic plan from just the MOU, which is just kind of the creating the structure.
so how much did it cost us? Like about $80,000?
No,
No.
no.
5.7 cents.
5.7 times
Yeah.
11,000 is
It's about $6,000.
$627.
Okay,
Yeah, it's like 600 and, yeah.
$600. So exactly what are we getting out of it besides?
Yeah.
Could I answer part of that question?
I'm
You know,
confused that what
we're-
this whole thing is
we're
about.
getting a great service from AC Red. We're getting represented at the county level to a multitude of firms. There's been none that we've been able to respond to, not only with Greg, the two previous directors have been so responsive to everything that we've asked for in terms of assistance and support in our efforts to promote East Bethel and market things here. So for $600, this is a great value.
Okay.
We've gotten great service from them.
Promotion is, and marketing is our city is a really good thing, I agree.
Correct.
I'm just asking the questions, because I don't know, and I didn't have the MOU to read.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I'm in regular conversation with both Jack and Aaron Berg, and there's, you know, business opportunities that, businesses that are, you know, there's one a couple weeks ago that they wanted to locate in Anoka County. They were a growing business, manufacturing overseas, looking to near shore, bring things back here, and one of the founders is a resident of Anoka County, and so was looking for opportunities in the area. They had a broker in place that wasn't able to, you know, find any suitable sites, and so they got in touch with me. I got in touch with the municipalities. I was working with Aaron on some off-market things that, you know, not too many people knew about, and kind of exploring opportunities to be able to bring a business to the community that otherwise would have just kind of, you know, skated on by without really anybody's knowledge. And so there's a lot of those things that happen on a daily basis that fly under the radar, if, you know, unless
I get it.
big thing happens to be able to promote. But yeah, talking about opportunities at the MinCar Expo, again, kind of holding the events. The real estate summit will have 100 real estate brokers and investors and everything come to Anoka County, and we'll be talking about all the communities, including East Bethel, and the great opportunities there are here.
Okay, thank you.
I think speaking kind of to what Suzanne was saying, when you read over this particular document about it, it really doesn't get to the meat of what's going on for us and the amount we pay for it and whatever. So it kind of leaves you just wondering what it's about, and you feel kind of lost about it, or at least just with what we had in our information.
It's so generic.
So
It's
I
very
understand
generic.
what you're saying, because, yeah, and I think this is an awesome resource for us. I don't know why it's not reflected in here. This just seems to dance around everything and not really just talk about the modest amount we pay and really the benefits we get out of it. And I think, of course, we would want that to continue, and maybe we'd even want to set it up for a longer term so we don't just keep evaluating it all the time. But it's interesting that the memorandum just seems to dance around a lot and doesn't get to what it's about.
You're drafting this is just a extension of the existing memorandum. And you're drafting, theoretically, there will be another MAU in the future.
Yeah, the hope is exactly to your point of locking in for a longer period of time. We just felt that it's important to have, one, the updated housing study, two, the updated strategic plan.
Okay.
To be able to have that real understanding of what are the needs today,
Right.
to ensure that that MOU properly reflects really that new information. If we locked in on, you know, the priorities and objectives and funding and everything using today's information, and then we get a new strategic plan,
Okay, right.
then now all the long-term MOU is not meeting what the actual needs are. So we're just kind of giving ourselves a little bit of breathing room
Right.
to come back and then have a more robust conversation next year to be able to lock in for a longer period of time.
Right.
With that updated strategic plan, over half of the fee associated with that consultant is that they're going to be coming out to each of the 21 municipalities and meeting with the cities individually to be able to get a real good understanding of what is East Bethel's needs and opportunities and benefits. What are you looking for from AC Red, so that all that information for all 21 municipalities get incorporated in that strategic plan. It's not in, being done in a silo and then being told, this is what your need is. No, you're telling us what your need is.
Right.
And then we're gonna aggregate that and figure out how do we execute. Because our job, my job, is to help fulfill East Bethel's economic development vision, whatever that is.
Right.
I
So,
have a-
go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to make an observation, not so much as a question, and because you're new, Greg. But I think for me, the block I see, and I have nothing against AC Red. I like the previous executive director. I thought she was doing a great job. I was looking forward to things that were going to happen in our community.
Yeah.
But this seems like we didn't really do the job we were supposed to do in those 5 years, so we need another year. And then we're going to come back to you in that year and like, hey, this is what we did. Can we have a longer time to do it? Which is fine, but I'm just looking at like the timeline end of it and thinking, how am I supposed to know that that's actually going to get done in this next calendar year? I trust in you. I like your presentation. I think you're doing a fine job. But this is just my observation. And this is kind of a little bit of hesitation I have in here.
Yeah.
Other than that, I like your presentation. I like the potential benefits that East Bethel could see from this. And as Jack pointed out, it is a very modest investment. So it's not like anything huge.
Yeah.
That's just an observation I'd like to make.
No, absolutely, and certainly a great point and well received. AC Red was kind of the idea came to fruition in 2018, and again really finalized with the MOU in January of 2019, and 12 months later was COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you think about any brand new organization, brand new business, a startup, AC Red hasn't really had the opportunity to be able to breathe and really, be able to execute on that original mission. There's a really big hiccup in the middle of that. And again, using that 2017 economic development study as the guiding document, that was before AC Red was even thought of, before a staff person was in place, before a staff person was in place that interacted with the cities and really figured out what the cities need from that relationship. So that 2017 study just doesn't reflect the needs and reality of today. And so this is that opportunity for us to say, you know what, like we understand that what was created was fantastic and has done tremendous work. And now we got to shift into kind of a version 2.0, now that we know what that relationship and those opportunities are, and really get that direct feedback from the cities of this is what we need, and we want to make sure that we have a guiding document that reflects that, so that the executive committee, as we get turnover at the county board and staff and all of that kind of stuff, that we are able to clearly set the path and ensure that we have that continuity moving forward, regardless of how those things factor into it. Where a 2017 study before anything was created just can't do that. And it's been, again, we've done a tremendous amount of great things, and I think we're realizing, just like with every startup business and everything along those lines, some things really worked and some things don't. And so let's make sure that we kind of take a look at things fresh, and we memorialize the things that are really important to the communities, and we make sure that we're not putting time, effort, and resources into things that aren't being helpful.
Have you heard the expression, there's nothing more permanent than a temporary government program? Have you heard that expression? I don't know who that's credited to, but it's not completely without merit, put it that way. But just to give you a foreshadowing, I would imagine the question, if I read my colleagues appropriately on the city council, the simplest question ties in with Tom was just asking, and that is, well, why hasn't it produced whatever results within 5 years? And we all know COVID existed and all that kind of thing, but I would assume that would be their initial question. And you're aware of our upcoming change here in the city of East Bethel?
Yeah.
I don't know Mr. Look very well. contrary to what some people think. But I would anticipate that his question will be similar.
Yeah, and I don't know if I'd necessarily, I respect and I appreciate the sentiment and the thought. The 2017 plan, again, that was before AC Red existed, before we had a staff person. And so that plan didn't necessarily, it doesn't reflect actually having a department and creating those long-term goals for that. There were a whole number of objectives that were outlined within that plan. One being creating the AC Red brand, the website, promotional materials, hosting events, hiring for the staff position, creating a partnership with all the municipalities. All those things have been done. And so really at this point, the plan is either we've done it, it's not applicable, or, yeah, I mean, it's kind of one of those two things of either the objectives were.
What it is you realize on the same agenda tonight is our own business recruitment and expansion or retainment.
Absolutely.
And the same thing is true of that. The data's getting old, so it's time to get more data, and it becomes a dog chasing its tail kind of situation. So I'm just giving a heads up, and just be mindful that might be kind of the mentality of the people you'll be dealing with here.
Sure, I appreciate that.
Not myself, of course, but everyone else. But just trying to give you a foreshadowing, anyway. Is there anything else?
So, am I hearing, we've got time?
We have time.
Okay.
Yes. So,
So
we could
are you
table this for
thinking,
now?
yeah, table it for now, get the full copy of the memorandum of understanding so everybody can read it, and then have another discussion next month and vote on that?
absolutely.
And kind of you might want to, if you're going to give a presentation to city council, it might want to be, keep what I said in mind, just for whatever it's worth.
Can I ask a quick question? Why not let it, instead of extending it, let it expire and just come back in January with the whole new one? Why wouldn't we do it that way?
Yeah, because the information for the strategic plan, which will help guide, again, take the input from all 21 municipalities, that's not going to be completed until the end of Q2. So we're expecting that document in June of 24.
Okay.
And so that information, again, it's going to be that direct feedback from the cities. That's going to help lock in and better understand how do we need AC Red to be structured in order to be successful in what the cities expect of us. And we're not going to have that information by January.
And
so
that's the one that involves the consultants going out and talking to everybody.
Yep, and so all of that is, those meetings are scheduled for first quarter of 24. So from January through March, that consultant will be meeting with all the municipalities. And so it just,
One could make a case that why don't you just let the MOU die at the end of 2024, and then after the strategic plan's done, then compose the new MOU.
Yeah, so part of the consideration with that would be that, again, my position, I'm a county employee, and so payroll is covered by the county, but the operating budget for everything that I do is through that cost share agreement. So East Bethel's 600 and some dollars to be able to
57.
Yeah. Aggregated, that pays for our registration to the MinCar Expo. That's marketing funds for having, we have the Catalyst MinCar listing. And so there's a number of...
Well, I can write you a check if you want me to cover it.
And so it's the programming, everything outside of payroll, the programming of what we do throughout the year is reliant on the cost share agreement. And so in that circumstance, then, if that was applied, to all 21 municipalities, then we wouldn't have any money to do anything.
Greg, what is your timeline for requesting the amendment and extension of the MOU?
Ideally, we would have action by early January. So, certainly some of those things can be,
If this went until mid-January, would that be
Oh.
okay?
that would be okay.
You'd also need that money to pay the consultants too, wouldn't you?
That was funded separately.
Oh, it was,
Yep.
okay.
You know, it appears to me that, I mean, I've seen far more than $657 get spent on things in municipalities that were chasing old stuff around it, had no value.
I spent that at Costco last week, so.
But it also, to me, it's very evident that for us to get the most bang out of our buck, so to speak, we have to be invested in this with our own work. We have to gather the data so that you can help us out if it turns out that there is something that you can do. So
I think that that sentiment has merit to it. The nuance I would throw in there is that I feel confident that the work that I'm doing and what the county is providing to East Bethel and the businesses of East Bethel, because again, it's not just the work that I'm doing with the administrator, with the community development director, it's the businesses that are reaching out to me
Sure.
directly. It's the businesses that are using the Open to Business program for the free consulting services. It's the entrepreneurs that have the idea that are trying to be able to get something off the ground. So there's a lot of that activity that occurs outside of any individual staff position. And so there is value. So your statement of maximizing the value, I think that that's appropriate. I think in either situation, it's a tremendous value that the city is getting for $600 and change, no matter what happens. So there are municipalities that don't actively participate, but because of the economic activity that's happening in the region, that there is benefit that's occurring by having the collective all be a part of it, regardless of whether a particular staff person is engaged or not.
The analogy is often used, a rising tide lifts all boats.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah, I was meeting with a med tech business today that opened up a new facility in the county, and a big consideration was, where it was growing, kind of consolidating, and where the workforce was located, and there was a number of employees that lived along Highway 65 as their main commuting pattern, and so they didn't want to locate further south or the other side of the metro because of the employment base and the community that's here. And so as they continue to add employees, then that economic activity is going to continue to help all municipalities within the county.
Anything else? So we'll table this?
Yeah,
the
I had
next
asked for a
meeting?
motion to table it.
All right. I'll take a motion
I'll
to.
make a motion to table.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you, Greg. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right, item number 5, Midco Border to Border Broadband Grant.
And this is just an informational item. We've been discussing with Midco some projects that could potentially be done in relation to those that we'd previously discussed in the pursuit of some grant monies year before last. Midco has gotten back to us and said they're interested in submitting a border-to-border grant that includes an extension in East Bethel on 222nd Street. 222nd Street is right up here off of Baton and goes back to 224th Avenue. This would serve 24 homes in that neighborhood. And Andrew Curley with Midco will be in contact with the city to discuss the broadband grant partnership and opportunity as soon as they hear back from the state as to where they'll receive their application. So that's another one that we did. That was two of the priority projects that we had listed. The other one was Catherine's neighborhood over on Jenkins and Briarwood. So this is gonna knock off, if they do this, this will knock off two of the bigger neighborhoods that have had no service to just being totally underserved.
Excellent.
Awesome. And how many neighborhoods do we have that are underserved?
Well, those are the two primary ones. It's really the way the FCC defines underserved. They're not specific to a lot of neighborhoods. These were the two that had the highest concentrations. What the FCC's definition is that if there's one dwelling within those census blocks that has service, it's counted as being served adequately. So we have this where we may have 10 houses that don't have good service, but there's one that does, so the FCC qualifies that as having adequate service. In these two neighborhoods in particular, there was almost nobody that had any service that was reliable or had any speed at all in terms of download and upload. So that's another challenge in working with these things, is to find those areas that are concentrated to qualify. So this is one that would qualify, that would add another 24 homes with better internet service in the area. And this is why I think that fixed wireless thing is a good opportunity. It's a way to do this with not as much investment as it is for laying fiber. Fiber is the ultimate probably solution, but the fixed wireless may be an interim until funds can be made to extend service to some of these other areas that have low density.
All right, so no action required. Thank you. Any other questions from anyone? All right. Item number 6B, R&E program update discussion. Oh, I'm sorry, did you have something?
I just wanted to go over some things that we discussed and kind of some points that we may want to use to develop as a framework for going forward. Beginning in June 2023, we discussed the need for a BR&E program update, discussed a variation of approaches on how to structure the update, and re-examine what we've learned from the previous plan. From this discussion, the objectives that resulted were to review those areas in the current report to give us a better understanding of what revisions will be needed to make the 2016 plan current, and to develop program responsibilities to present to the Chamber of Commerce that will outline and request specific tasks that will be requested from the Chamber. As a guideline to develop the 2023-2024 program needs, the following items are recommended as a general outline for moving forward on the 2023-2024 program. Number one, measure what has been done to address the concerns identified in the 2016 plan. We've had several discussions on those, and I think there's some agreement that progress has been made on certain items. I think we need to specifically identify those in writing to make sure we're not leaving out anything. To utilize the 2016 BR&E plan and the 2020 census and deed data to revise any outdated information in the previous plan, and use this data as needed to define what we need to focus on. We need to develop the structure of the leadership team to implement the BR&E program. Our EDA President, Julie Lux, is coordinating a meeting with Christine Casello with Connexus, Gregory Fromm Gillis with AC Red to establish the public side of the team. Councilmember Brian Mundell has also volunteered to be part of this group. We need to determine the roles for the city and East Bethel Chamber of Commerce to review this with the Chamber and have them recruit their members for the interview teams. Schedule a meeting with the Chamber Executive Board to coordinate and implement the interview process. Prepare a follow-up program defined by needs identified in the interview process and establish a means to ensure that recommendations are satisfied, and to develop a process to use the city as a facilitator to identify resources available to help the businesses and sustain the continuation of this activity. The EDA, with assistance as required from city staff, AC Red, Connexus, and the Chamber, is recommended to be the lead to organize and coordinate the development of the 2023-2024 BR&E program. This is a general outline recommendation, and I just want to know how you want to proceed with this, and if this is something we want to follow, change, amend, or whatever.
I think I've had a number of discussions with different people. I did connect with Greg at the MinCar Expo, and we talked about the BR&E, and he's wholeheartedly given his support that he will be a very active, have an active involvement in our BR&E program. Christine Costello has also committed to be whatever the roles are. We're trying to determine, we've got a leadership group and then we've got subcommittees. So she set up a meeting. I'm meeting with Greg, and Aaron Berg's going to be there, and Christine Costello on December 5th to just talk about what does this structure look like, what's next, how do we then form the subcommittees. Greg had a good suggestion that the city of Ramsey had their own BR&E program a couple years ago, and they had a particularly good set of questions. So I think it's all about the questions, and it's all about what we're hoping to accomplish. So I'm just working to gather as much information from different resources. I did reach out to Sean Sullivan from Ramsey, but have not heard back yet, so I'll connect with him. So after that December 5th meeting, I can report back and just talk about the framework and next steps. And I did talk to the president and vice president of the East Bethel Chamber again at the chamber meeting just several weeks ago, and they've reiterated that there's a commitment from several members. And I've been talking to different community members that I know, and I think we're going to be calling on our elected and our boards. So we need a lot of help because we don't have a lot of staff time from the city to help us. So any questions on?
I think that's the proper direction to go. I think the whole process is critical around forming that leadership team and getting the right people involved in this to reach out to these businesses to get their input on these particular issues. So I applaud you for your efforts, Julie, thank you.
And I'll keep you all updated. You know, we don't need to wait till the next meeting, so I'll keep you updated by email on what was discussed, and then if you all have ideas of other people who could be on different subcommittees, that would be great, because I think last time we had, 45 different people involved?
There was a bunch.
Yeah.
I've reached out to some people that I know that
Good.
Is a chamber member, has a new business in East Bethel, and she said she would be very interested in going around interviewing. I was impressed with what I saw online from the Anoka County VOTEC. So far as what they offer, what I was disappointed in is that I left one voice message for someone who I thought would be responsible over there to, what can you help us with insofar as my initial thought was we should just have some initial information with us if someone asks. Just, we're going to do this. How are we going to partner up with you, so to speak? I didn't get a call back from that individual, so then I called their front desk. I gave them a couple days. I called just the open line and, again, talked to whoever was the woman that answered and gave her basically the same spiel I just talked about here, and gave her my phone number. She said, I will give this to the person she said, I will talk to some of our people and see who wants to contact you. Maybe what I need to, I'll drag the old file out, find who was the VOTEC contact last time we did it, and if they're still around.
Check with Paul Johnson, because he was on the East Bethel Jobs Committee last time.
Okay,
But I mean, they might not know what we're asking for. I mean,
I mean, what I remember was, I mean, the things that they, obviously the industry,
mm-hmm,
and then, when it came time to go to Tech Metals, and when Tech Metals said, I can find all the guys in the world to weld, but I can't find anyone that can read shop drawing and do their own layout. I said, well, guess what? Anoka Tech has a program that's exactly what they do. And I don't know if it worked out for him or not. It'd be interesting to find out 5 years later if he was able to get anybody out of there. That was one of the things that, we really didn't follow up all that well, I don't believe.
I think Paul had some really great connections with VOTEC back then and had a couple of programs at his shop too.
Well, sure. I mean, again, he's dealing with with a very technical manufacturing.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you can be involved this time.
Julie, I had planned on being involved.
Specifically in that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of my area of experience.
Excellent. Anything else on this? All right. So we'll jump to the business activity report.
Several things that we want to report on that happened in the month of October and the first couple of weeks in November. As you can see, work is getting underway now with the Elvis project, with the grading, the dewatering, and utility work has begun. They plan on doing housing construction probably beginning in June of 2024. Quick Trip and Nexus had their grand openings. Both of them went really well and were well attended. Capstone Homes has submitted all the required materials necessary for a preliminary plat application for their single-family home development for the Viking Meadows property. They do not meet the threshold for the requirement of completing an EAW, but have submitted a response to questions requested by the city engineer which relate to this subject. In addition, we have retained a consulting engineer, S2 Traffic Solutions, to do a traffic study to analyze the impact this project may have on surrounding intersections of the project. And also, they will also look at the impact, factor in some of the things that elevage traffic may have on this. This study is done by the city, but will be paid by Capstone. They submitted an escrow amount for the first half initial payment of $10,000 plus, and that has already been paid. So the study is underway and will be completed, as I understand, by December the 5th and presented to City Council by their December the 11th meeting. Design and Earth Contracting is progressing with their building, and they're anticipated for completion in late spring. In relation to this, they vacated their existing building, which has been purchased by Matt's Plumbing Solutions, and the conditional use permit was recommended to be approved by the Planning Commission on November the 14th and will be presented to City Council next Monday night for approval for this business. They're relocating to East Bethel from Columbus. And city staff has received inquiries regarding the 7.1 acre city-owned property south of and adjacent to Cedar Creek Senior Living on Taylor Street. Council has agreed to and has had an appraisal completed on the parcel and will market the property with direction of council with the primary intention of developing single-level senior townhomes. This will be an upcoming topic for council discussion. The Strandland Farm Rural Residential Subdivision preliminary plat was recommended to be approved by the Planning Commission on October 24th. It was presented to City Council on November 13th and approved. This plan includes 20 single-family residential lots. Classic Commercial Park, additional preliminary plat and final plat was presented to the Planning Commission at their October 24th meeting, and it was recommended for approval. Will be presented to City Council, was presented to City Council on November 13th and approved by the council. CD Properties North will divide a 20-acre parcel into 3 commercial lots. One interesting thing about this is the proposed next expansion of Aggressive Hydraulics, who's looking to put a 40,000 square foot building on this site. Team Drywall, a 32-year-old home-based East Bethel business, it's focused on residential and commercial drywall work, has purchased 18533 Buchanan Street, formerly Northern Asphalt Building, to expand their business to include additional construction trades. Conditional use permit application will be heard at the November 28th, 2023 Planning Commission meeting. So we're still having significant activity both in the commercial and the industrial development aspects of city businesses. And again, while we've gotten lots of leads from AC Red, one of the problems we have in attracting business here is we have no vacant buildings that they're interested in, which is a good sign too. But in order to get some of these things, they want to move into something that's ready to go rather than construct anything. But they've been very helpful in giving us leads, and we just haven't hit on anything that we can actually respond to, but that day is coming. So that's all I have. I do have one item under other business. Normally, we have canceled our December meeting as it's very close to Christmas. The December meeting is scheduled for the 18th, and I just wanted to know your feelings on conducting the meeting at that date. It does appear we could consider that MOU discussion, but we could also do that at our January meeting. And I'll just go with your feelings on how you want to handle that, and we'll schedule accordingly.
When would be the proposed date? Is that
The next meeting is scheduled for December the 18th.
18th?
I don't know if anybody has.
Any ideas on who's gonna be in town, who's available? I'm available.
I'm available,
I
but
think I'm in town.
I don't know,
if we don't,
but I know I'm really busy that week, so.
if we don't have anything pressing though.
If we go what?
If we don't have anything pressing though, it's
Yeah, the only
always a
thing
nice
we've
Christmas
got
break.
is, and we can decide on the memorandum of understanding in January.
Correct, that's what he said, so that would fall within our January timeline, and give Mr. Look and Mr. Berg time to get associated with this and make their presentations at that time.
Okay.
And it gives the new person more time to figure out what's going on.
I'm flexible either way, so
Yeah.
we vote to push it off to January?
I don't care either way.
That's
I guess
fine.
I think if we have something substantial to cover for the December meeting, I'm open to it. Otherwise, I don't see a.
Or if something substantial comes up,
Sure, right.
we can schedule it, or it can be scheduled, but
So should we leave it that we'll tentatively push it off till January, but if something substantial comes up that warrants a meeting, that we'll convene?
Very good.
All right. Sounds good. Any other business otherwise?
The only thing I have is I just want to state it's been such a great pleasure to work with this group. You all have been very special to me, and I just wish you the best in the city going forward and everything you do. Thank you so much.
We appreciate your support and guidance all these years. I've had a great working relationship with you for 12 years, I think. It's been a long time. You're going to be missed.
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you, Jack, for everything.
Thank you, Jen.
Without you taking the lead on some of these economic development
Yes.
things, I don't think they would have been done. So you have a lot to be proud of what you achieved here.
Well, again, this group right here, I think will be able to keep everything moving forward, and we just look for better things to come for the city. That's what we're in this for. Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank
your
you, Jack.
guidance.
Thank you.
I wish you the best as in your new endeavor too.
Thank you.
All right, so we have city council report.
Got a couple things. City Council interviewed Anoka County Commissioner Matt Look and offered Look the position dependent on a successful background check. We had the fall town hall meeting that was very well attended, and many residents got up to speak about the city administrator position. On Highway 65, you'll probably have noticed that many crossover lanes are being built currently. They are to prepare for the mill and overlay in 2024. The mill and overlay will go from 93rd Lane in Blaine all the way up to 217th in East Bethel. Additionally, work will be done up to 237th to include lane crossing barriers in the center median. If there's no questions, all I gotta say is Happy Thanksgiving and
2024 is the overlay? 2025?
2024.
Oh, okay,
It's 2023 still.
yeah. You had me scared there for a while. I thought, there's no way that road's gonna get another year of use out of there. That state's gonna get another year of use out of that road.
No, it's next year they're doing it.
Whew. You ought to see what my checkbook looks like.
Well, Happy Thanksgiving and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Yeah.
Same to everybody.
All right, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
And before you all leave, I'm gonna request your signatures on these authority meeting attendance records, so we get you paid. If we meet in December, there'll be a second one issued for that. Yours is coming at the end of the month. It'll be a big one.
That's right. 3.7 cents per resident.
Mm-hmm.